Welcome back to Half A Hot Rods. If you haven't been here before, I'm Adam. I'm just a regular guy with no particular amount of money, talent, all the right tools, or really knowledge about what I'm doing. But I'm here to show you that you can do this just like me if you just put your mind to it and you're willing to fail and succeed and fail and fail and succeed. This week we're going to work on making the bed fit the truck and getting all the extra stuff cut out, getting it to fit down on there, building brackets to bridge from the bed that's supposed to fit but doesn't to the truck. So anyway, come on along as we cut and weld and customize that bed to make it fit this truck. Here we go.
Okay, so when we left off, we just finally got this bed on the 5797 truck to sit down at the right height that it should on the frame, or really close. So now we've got to fine tune it. And by that I mean we do need some gap between the bed and the cab, because when you're doing truck things, the frame's going to flex a little and we don't want it rubbing on the cab. So we got to make a little gap there. It may be hard to show. I'm going to try and do it as we go, but we got to get under there and see how much gap we need between the frame rails and the bed in order to make room for gas lines and stuff on the top of the fuel tank. That's the only thing I thought I saw. That's the only thing I thought I saw that looked like it was really interfering. In the back here, we've got a couple of 2x stuck in there to get us the right height front to back. So obviously I'm not going to use wood for that. They did in the past, but I'm going to try and find some steel little work for that. I'm kind of thinking chunks of channel running across that will go this way and catch the frame on both sides, because right now the contact points on this bed are pieces of round tube that go this way, and there's one on either side, and they don't line up with the frame rail. They're inside of the frame rail. So it might be okay to do it that way, but I'd rather have something that ties those together and ties that whole assembly to the frame of the truck. Once we get the bed positioned in the right place, both front to back, side to side, then we can work out where those need to be, how to do the brackets, which are usually pretty simple. Just a piece of angle that goes from your cross piece down to the frame and bolts to the frame. And then we can also mark out approximate location for the gooseneck ball. I saved that off the donor truck. We're definitely going to use it because this is going to do truck stuff. The other thing I'm going to mark is where the end of the frame is underneath this, because there's a good chance we're bobbing this bed behind where the fenders go on. Another thing we're going to determine by getting that positioned right is where this wheel's sitting exactly, so we know how much more to trim out. So once we get all that marked, figured out, positioned just the way we want it, then we'll take the bed off again, cut all that stuff out that we need to cut out, cut all this extra stuff that's got X's all over it, get rid of that, maybe do some fine tuning across the front because it'll be easier without a pickup cab in the way. So, first goal for right now, get this bed positioned where we want it, which is going to involve the A-frame hoist, a floor jack, some prying and pushing and pulling, and maybe a little cursing. But let's see what we can get done to get this positioned so we can start actually making it fit the truck. Here we go. So I just measured the gap between the cab and the bed on my 2001 Chevy truck. It's about 1.5 inches. And on Maverick Square Body, it's about 1 3/4 inches. Maverick Square Body, we put a regular bed on a cab and chassis truck, so we kind of chose where it went. So, but I think 1.5 inches is pretty reasonable. I don't want a big gap, but I can't have it against the cab like we talked about. So we're going to shoot for 1.5 inches away from the cab. So this side moved more in one pull than the other side did. It also moved the other side a little bit, but they're both about dead even at 1 5/8. So we're going to call that good. Now we're going to try and situate it left to right. Let me show you the setup we have under there. So I've got a chain looped around the frame of the truck because we don't want it to move, right? And then my come along is tied to the chain and hooked to the bed at the front so I can just pull it straight back. Pretty basic, pretty simple, but it worked. So, and we didn't have to lift it up and have it swinging in the air and make it difficult to make it stop moving. So we had the weight of the bed to prevent it from moving too much. Also, you can see the end of the frame versus the end of the bed and why I'm probably going to trim that off. Are you helping? I don't think you're really helping. Okay, so let's unhook this bad boy and then we'll get some side-to-side measurements and go from there. Front looks good. The back, where are we going to go to? Let's go to this frame. 25 to the inside. Well, that's interesting. Going by the boxes, the front's perfect and the back is 2 inches off to one side. But the measurements at the front from the cab are the same as well. So that leads me to believe that there's some discrepancy in the bed itself, maybe. Let me try another spot. I would say that maybe this bed isn't perfectly square. I don't think I can get it closer than that. We can slot the holes in the brackets when the time comes, but I'm not going to push it around trying to square it up more than that. But our gap is good at the front now. A little more like it should be on a truck. Should have some daylight in there. So now we just got to get underneath and figure out what we're going to do for mounts. I brought these chunks of channel in. They're obviously not wide enough to go across the frame, but more to see what size would work. Because I'm kind of thinking we could lay those if I got 4-foot pieces, or I'd have to measure, but long enough to go side to side, and then set the round tube around top of those and just weld it up. So let's see if we can figure that out. The other thing I'd like to know is if I've got the bed matching the angle of the frame, because I want them to be doing the same thing. I want them to be on the same plane. Not airplane, but you know, parallel and stuff. I need to get one of those digital angle gauges, because if I'm being honest, I can barely read this one. The numbers are all really little. So that's like 2.5 degrees. So I'd say that's pretty cool. Well, I think we're going to put some stuff under the front and then put some more stuff under the back and then see where we're at. We also need to measure the frame width. Right, Hubcap, you're not super helpful. Why don't you just go lay down, huh, and chill? Yeah, just go chill. We're going to be out here for a minute. Got lots of work to do. I think we're touching, yeah, we should be touching there on both sides. And I think that's it. I don't think we're touching anywhere else. We're touching here and at the back, which is not ideal. I want to spread that load out more around the frame. What? Are you helping? This one, that's got a long way to go because that frame drops. But there is, yeah, there's a body mount right there where the old bed used to go. So we may be able to run across there and get something, maybe. I don't know. Alright, I'm going to have to play around with steel and vice grips and clamps and stuff. And I'm not going to be able to hold on to the camera and get the lighting right and everything. So let me figure it out and then we'll come back to you. Alright, it's about 2 hours later. I've been rolling around under this thing, jacking it up, putting stuff in there, clamping, vice gripping, cobbling things together because I don't have any chunks of steel long enough to really simulate what I'm trying to do. But I think I've got a plan now. So let me show you what we're working with. So this back cross piece, they're V'd in, but obviously that'll go straight across the back. I basically just pulled out my chunks of wood and put in chunks of channel that are the right thickness. The next row up, you can see that, slightly less rusty than the bed. Chunk of channel that's going across, that'll be the same way, pretty straightforward. And to make it match these round pipes, I think I'll get a piece of plate and then we'll stand the plate on edge and I'll cut a semicircle in it and then we'll just put it up to the pipe, tack it, and then tack it across the channel. I don't know, sorry, the dog just slimed me. I don't know that we need that much weld on it, but I'd rather have more weld on it than less than just this much room where the pipe contacts the channel. So I'll have to take some time and make some saddles basically for the pipe to go to that, but I don't think that'll be that bad really. I'll make a template, and once I figure out the template, it should go pretty quick, and we'll need I mean, honestly, we probably could do just one on each one of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I decided on 4 crossbars because that's what I think what the pickup has. But when we get under here, I'll show you the spacing and it'll make sense. So let me grab a creeper and we'll climb, roll. We'll get under here. So I showed you the 2 rear ones. Oh. Now we're all the way at the front of the truck, and you kind of have to use your imagination here because this chunk of channel that I've got vice gripped in, it would go all the way across the width. It is going to rest on this cross member, and then we'll come out here, and I didn't have a chunk of angle, which is probably what we'll actually use. This is a piece of square tube, but we'll weld a piece of probably a 2-inch angle to this cross member and then bring it down here to bolt in. I don't expect to have a ton of weight other than the weight of the bed on the front of the bed, but if I'm using my bale spear and stuff, that'll have to prevent it from going upward, more or less. And then, so here is the more forward of the 2 back ones that I showed you. Okay. And then we'll come, you see where the differential is, we'll come just forward of the differential, we'll do another cross member that'll be just like that. And then this one, this one's really cobbled together, is the second one back. It has to go across the gas tank. This size of channel will stand on top of the GM bed mounts out here, and then it'll span all the way across to the other side. And when these aren't like folding together trying to fall down because the pipes are pushing in the middle and it's all one piece, I think they'll sit straight across and we'll be good there. And then we'll just bolt them into the factory bed mounts right there, and that should be good enough. If it was good enough for GM, it's probably good enough for me. So now I need to take measurements of everything. I'm going to draw myself some pictures, take some notes, because I want to go to the steel place and go buy all this stuff, and I don't want to buy a bunch extra. And I need to be able to, try to get as close to just getting what I need. And we're going to have to allow some room for waste for sure. But it should be pretty straightforward. It did take me a while to figure it out, just because I didn't have good mock-up pieces, because when this stuff wants to fall down in the middle, it's kind of hard to figure, well, what's that going to look like when it's actually level. So yeah, I think we got it figured out. I do want to, before I start taking measurements and everything, I think we should set this down and make sure that I haven't done something to make the bed just look funky on the pickup chassis. I don't think I have, but let's throw a jack under it and put it back on the ground and just eyeball it again. And it's definitely squatting, which will not be the ultimate ride height on this truck, because we're going to either add springs, or likely I'm just going to add some airbags to it. It's sitting, it looks like pretty close to level. And the front suspension is stock. If I need to lower that to make it look right, I will. I'm not opposed to that. It's not going to be a low rider, but I do want it to have a good looking ride height and not too much fender gap. So yeah, that don't look bad. Like I said, she's squatting a little bit, but I think we're pretty level. Let's see if we're level. You think we're level? This side, I think that looks like it's sitting pretty flat. So the drip rail on the pickup, it's just a little high in the back. On the cab, you knew what I meant. And the bed is dead nuts level. That's really level. Pretty good side to side. Better than a lot of GM trucks I've had. Yeah. So I think we're in a good place. We'll make some notes and some drawings and probably mark the back side of this wheel opening on both sides. I think I figured out that I'll probably run my fuel filler inside this toolbox based on where the hose comes out of the tank. You can see that little bit of blue tape back there. That's the fuel inlet. So we just got to be above that. We could come out to, that box is in the way. And then this is all heavy, heavy, heavy. And I hate when filler necks are in the top of the bed. Like, that's the part of the bed you're going to use. So I really don't want to bring it through there. To bring it all the way back to where these are would be a lot of hose with not a lot of drop. So I think it would make it difficult to fill. So I think I'm going to try to just put it in here and see if we can get enough drop on it to make it work. I mean, ideally, it would be a little higher. It would be like right there. But yeah, I'm not unhappy with that. And the bed to cab gap looks good. So we'll jack it up again, do a lot more drawing, take some notes, and mark everything. And then it'll be about time to pull the bed off again. And probably better get some more acetylene for the torch and put in some cutting. And go to the steel place and buy some steel so that we can mount this bad boy permanently. Then we can think about bobbing it. Because really bobbing it, we don't need to bob it to put it to work, and I kind of need to put it to work soon. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that's sitting. Alright, we'll see you soon. We went back underneath, took some more measurements, and I did change my mind on a couple things. I'll show you my rough drawings here. Front's going to stay that C-channel laid flat. We'll have a couple pieces of flat steel to cradle the pipe. Be 50.5 inches long, the 4-inch by 1.5 inch channel. Then we use 2-inch angle, 16-inch long on either side to tie it to the frame. Second one will be the smaller C-channel, just like we talked about, 50 inches long, 3 by 1.5. The two changes I made, the next two, the ones that are going to be on either side of the axle here, I'm going to use 2-inch square tube. There was more gap there than I thought once I started really messing around with it. So I've got length measurements on both of them. And then the chunk of C-channel I found here in the shop will go across the very back one back here where the frame ends. So, got that all figured out, basically made a shopping list. And then I moved on to marking and getting ready to cut this wheel opening. Now, the big fenders are going to go over this, so it doesn't have to be pretty, but I also want to make it presentable just in case plans change partway through, like we can't get those fenders to mount the way I want or something. I don't want this to be an absolute disaster. So I used the level to find the center of the axle, marked it on here, did some measuring and comparing, decided 3 inches up should give us adequate clearance, especially once I had airbags so it's not squatting all the time. And then open this up as much as we could to give the front the same amount of clearance in front of the tire as it currently has in back of the tire. Then I used this big blue tub to make my curves and just eyeballed it till it looked good. And now we're going to do some cutting. So we'll put on the earmuffs and go to town. I'll tell you what, I am pretty happy with that. A nice shape, pretty snug fit, but that's kind of what I want. With airbags on it, I shouldn't have to worry about it bottoming out. And let's be honest, it should take a pretty good bounce to get it to bottom out on that. And we can always cut it more if we need to, but it's a lot easier to cut more later than to put it back. I was going to duplicate that curve at the bottom on the front. I'm going to hold off because I don't know if it matters. If it's going to be covered by that fender, then it really doesn't matter. But yeah, I like that a lot. Now, a lot of people would just leave the wheels sticking out because that seems to be a thing now. But that's definitely not my style. And I think using those 57 fenders for my dually flares would be just right. Bring the shape of the body into the bed and bring it all together into one thing and stuff. So now we can take our plate that we cut out, move it over there, clamp it up, mark it, cut it, and it should be the same, right? It should be. That's assuming that both sides of the bed were the same before we started. which may be a big assumption based on the measurements we got earlier. But I'm betting they'll be good enough for government work. The light is terrible over here, so we're just going to cut that out and we'll come back to you. And I kind of wanted to show you up here on top of the bed where it's easier to see what's actually going on. So these two pieces of channel represent the frame rails of the truck, right? So that'd be the front of the truck, we're at the back of the truck. And they're flat on top, but they also change elevation as they go up and they come back down. And they also aren't straight like this, they come in and out, and I don't remember exactly how, but they're not all the same is the point. So, the bed is made, and this is a mistake that I won't make again, the bed is made out of, obviously, a bunch of flat steel, but the primary members that go forward and back are made out of tube, right? And they go, if they set right on top of the steel, or on top of the frame, if they lined up, that'd be great. But they don't. They sit just inboard on both sides. There's a couple cross members that catch them, but again, because they're different elevations, they don't sit where I need them to sit. So, what I've basically done with square tube and C-channel is I've made crossbars. Okay? And I'm just doing 2 for demonstration, but there's 5 that I figured out under there. They are, some of them are this, some of them are a taller channel, some of them are square tube, but that gets them all to the same level based on the different heights of the frame. Okay? So once we get them there, then it doesn't matter where the tube sits, it's on a good solid cross member. So again, we're just inboard of the frame. That's about how it sits. So my original plan to attach these, because I've got it sitting as low as I can and still hit these cross members and still clear everything, I was thinking, okay, I like where it sits. I want to keep it that low. I don't want to raise it any. So I was going to take little chunks of channel and, hold on. Put them against the square tube or rectangle tube or channel that I've got under there, and then put them up on either side of the pipe, and that would give us all this to weld, all this to weld, all this to weld. Okay? Now, the downside is this pipe that I'm using for demonstration is actually smaller. The pipe on the truck, let me show you. The pipe on the truck underneath is the same size as this pipe that's on the back. And when you put that on there, you get a big old gap, which maybe structurally wouldn't be a problem, but because there'd be a gap in the middle here, I worry that it would be essentially pushing out on the sides all the time with all the weight of the bed. So, that's why I was going to go here and just bring it up to where it touches, push it back against there, and then be fine. So I cut and ground and trimmed and got reasonably usable and presentable 10 of these pieces. 2 for every cross piece. And then I'm driving to work the other day and I thought, well, that's a dumb way to do it. Why don't you just saddle it? You know, why don't you just raise the bed up and saddle it? But I don't want to raise the bed up. And I thought, well, why don't you just cut them in half and then put them out here like that? Well, you know what happens when you cut channel in half? It basically makes a piece of angle iron. So then we'd have that and that, and probably not overhang that much. This is just an example. But then we'd be able to weld here, we'd be able to weld here. Same on both sides, underneath if we want to. And that gets us away from only having this contact point here. That was the original problem. Like, we could have just welded the round to the square, but that's not a lot of contact. So now the question is, I've got a whole stick of angle because you have to buy this stuff in 20-foot sticks, and I needed like 4 feet. But angle iron you'll always use, so I'm like, it's like 25 bucks. I'll take it. I'll have it around the shop. It'll be awesome. I like having stuff here when I need it. So I have a whole stick of it here. You know, what's left from the brackets I've already made. But I've also cut and ground these most of the way. Either way, I need to cut 20 pieces of angle, or I can cut 10 pieces of channel that I've already ground most of it off and cleaned it up, ready for welding, and cut them in half. That way I'm not wasting the material I've already got ready, and it's 10 less cuts. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut our channel into angle iron, which seems ridiculous, but I've already got like 3 hours into cleaning this up and cutting it. So if I can save a little time by not cutting 20 pieces of angle, we'll do that. So I got a new metal blade in my old saw. This is a, chop saw, miter saw that I bought from a pawn shop 20 years ago for $30. And it's not happy, don't get me wrong. There are issues, but it still works. So I think we're going to do that. We're going to cut those up, and then we'll hopefully get back to tack and stuff. No. Then we'll do a bunch more cleaning, wire brushing, and that kind of stuff underneath the truck. Then we'll get to tack and stuff. So let's get to cutting.
Rinse, repeat.
Well, that was about an hour, give or take, of cutting and grinding, and we've got all our little tabs made and cleaned up, and I know they're not perfectly square, but they're certainly good enough to go under the bed to attach a bracket to another bracket, and that's what we're going to do. So now we will grab the wire wheel off this battery-powered grinder, put it on the corded one, and we're going to get under here and do some prep work. We're going to make it so that the rusty pipe here is ready to connect to this square tube here. Yeah. And we'll do that all along the way. That way we can tack things together. We're probably going to have to mark and drill. We're going to have to prep, mark and drill the stuff that's going to go through those pipes, and then put them back in there and then tack them in so they don't move around on us. Yeah, so a whole lot of grinding, a little bit of drilling for the couple that we have to drill holes first. The front one is going to have, well, you can't see it from up here, but the front one's going to have a piece of angle iron that comes down along the frame, so we don't have to drill those right away. I'll figure that out when I get under there if we have to, if it's better to do it now or wait till later. Whichever one offers easier access, that's the way we're going to go. But for right now, I'll get what video I can of it, but it's going to be a pain in the butt to get good video under there because the lighting is terrible, my head's going to be in the way, and the grinder's going to be in the way. But we'll get you a little bit of that. But you get the idea. We're just going to clean up those mating surfaces so that we can get good welds on them when that time comes. So I'm trying to get all the prep work done so that when Wyatt's available to weld, he can just get in there and burn it in. So here we go. I think we're finally ready to do a little more tacking. I got the rear done the other day. I don't know if I got video of it or not. But we've got all our tabs ready to go. My welder doesn't have super long leads, so I've got it fished underneath so we can reach the top at the front. You can see I kind of got it ground in there so we can at least get the insides. Then that should be enough to hold it to lift the bed off. We'll get both front cross members from that hole up front. Then we'll get both of these middle ones from in here. And yes, there's a gap there. I've got it propped up right now because that was the only way to square up that front one. So we'll get it tacked and then let it down, and we'll tack both of these from the outside. We'll throw that welding jacket over the gas tank and get to going here. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to get video of this. I will show you this. I'm going to retire the stepladder tripod, and I went ahead and invested in myself, like I'm always telling other people they should do. Were you getting in the trash? Oh no, I wasn't getting in the trash. He was getting in the trash. And I spent $30 whole on myself and got this tool for the job I'm doing, YouTube. That's the fanciest tripod I've had yet. I've had a couple cheaper ones, and I'm kind of hard on things, so I'm hoping that this one will hold up a little better. So let's get you set up there, and like I said, it's going to be hard to see, but I'll get you the idea of it, and we'll get these tacked, and we've got to mark gooseneck location, and I think that's it till we pull this off. Did you come over here and turd right in my area? Hey, Captain Fart Cloud. What are you doing? Hubcap, you stink, buddy. Oh yeah, I stink a little bit. Yeah, he stinks a lot. Let's get going. We'll see how many welds we can get before it pops the breaker. That 15 amp circuit doesn't like this welder on an extension cord. Yeah, we're going to shut everything off, lift the bed up, take the wood planks out, set it back down, adjust our next cross member. Which means I got to get under there and get the welding stuff out of the way. Well, the channel came up with it. That's all I really needed it to do. So that's good. Those welds look just like I expected them to. Not good.
Awesome, booger.
Now we got to see if my plan's going to work out to get to the next one. I got to do the other side. There's not really room for a camera, and the lighting's bad over there, and it's the same thing. So I'll be back when we're ready to pick up this bed and see if everything's stuck. Okay, I've got everything tacked up, and then I went back and started checking all my measurements, and I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of things aren't perfect. 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and then I start measuring all over the bed, and I think maybe the bed isn't perfect. Maybe the 30-year-old frame isn't perfect. So The only way to try and get everything perfect would be to cut all the welds out that I just did and start over. I think as opposed to doing that, what I will do is once we go to put it back on, we may try and cheat it a little more. But I think if we gain on one, we're going to lose on the other. So we're going to go with eyeball. And as long as eyeball is good, that's going to be good enough for me. So like I'm not building a show truck. I'm building something that I think is cool and it'll still be able to do truck stuff. And that's really the only two. That's all it's got to do. It's got to meet my standards, which, based on my abilities, have to be kind of low. So we're going to pick the bed up a little more. Then we're going to let the truck down and hopefully roll it out of here. So this time I'm going to pick the back up first and get it on wheels and tires. The only thing I didn't consider when I used this the first time was when you lift something up with a floor jack, it rolls under it as it comes up. If it comes up at an angle, if it's this angle, it's going to roll under. Well, this doesn't do that. It just tries to pull it to it. So the back was trying to pull forward off because it's pulling towards the A-frame. So we're going to set it more in the middle of the tires this time. Hopefully that'll give us a little more room for air. And then when we pick it up, we'll pick it up a little bit further back so that hopefully it'll want to pull it back as it pulls it up. Because in the end, it's got to be a little bit like this in order for the truck to come out. And we're starting out higher because we blocked the whole truck up before we started this time. Hopefully all those things will work in our favor. We're about to find out. We'll get the chain hoist on the front of the bed, then we'll let the front of the truck down with a jack, and then we will put the jack under the rear and see if we can let it down from under the bed so we know how high the bed has to go. Good? Good. So we've got this set up so it's pulling at an angle this way. So in theory, as it goes up, it should keep it over those tires there and we should be in good shape. It's like science. We're just doing an experiment and we'll see how it goes. Now the question is, what do I have that's tall enough to put under that? And I don't know if I have that many more tires and wheels. 4 per side? Probably don't. But it needs to be set on something solid. And I know I don't have enough blocks to stack it up that high. But, yeah. Also, it's really high to be climbing on and cutting stuff off of, which was going to be one of my next steps. I think whenever we set it on, we will leave the chain hoist attached. That works so much better than anything else I've done. So much better. You see all my spacers and stuff that were in here. Get them out of the way. That thing dangling there does make me a little nervous though. Better get something under it. Well, this isn't really what I thought progress was going to look like, but it might be what progress looks like. We just put a little tension on those. I mean, I don't think it'll go anywhere.
So,
Are you sure?
Sure would like to have something better under that though. A lot more comfortable on top of it than I would be under it.
That's what she said.
Which is where we're going to need to be. Well, yeah. Oh, did you get tired of running around acting like a dummy? Your ears split. You look ridiculous. Yeah, there's a lot of rubber on this, so there's a lot of movement. Sure would like to have something else under the front of that, though. I don't have any more stacks of tires and wheels. I do have just aluminum wheels. I wonder if those would be better than the ones with tires on them. Still not super solid.
No kidding.
You know what would be neat is if I could just stand this up. I wonder if I could let one end all the way down. That's solid now. The question is, I think we'll just leave it like that for now, because it ain't going to go anywhere. It can't fall down anymore. How much can we weld with it like that? Probably a lot. I don't know. I know things have not gone as planned with this project. Not even close. We're going to give it a break, go feed. This might be the end. I'm not happy with that for progress, so we're going to cut some stuff until I am happy with today's progress. Here we go. That cutoff wheel was trash. I went through one cutoff wheel and like a 18-inch, 16-inch cut. That's garbage. So we'll load up another one and do it again. After that, maybe we'll get the torch out. Well, I think that's what progress is going to look like this week, because I'm pretty sure it just ran out of oxygen. So the bed is off. I've got brackets falling off underneath that I tack welded so Wyatt could full weld them. I didn't get to finish cutting like I wanted to, and I'm not going to burn through a bunch of cutoff wheels because it's time for dinner. I've got 3 more pipes and that little tab to cut off, and then this whole rack will be off. Maybe I'll get up tomorrow morning and do it, maybe I won't, probably not. This has been kind of a frustrating week because we're just not moving things along like I wanted to. But that's how it goes sometimes, I guess. So next week we'll come back with a little more positive attitude, maybe a new bottle of oxygen, and yeah, we'll keep cranking on this thing and hopefully make some actual progress and maybe bolt the bed back down. I don't know. Anyway, if you like what we're doing, you can relate to how things are going, definitely come back and check out some of the other videos. Check out how we got this far. Got the pickup on that 97 chassis. And come back to see us eventually succeed, because I'm not done. Just been a rough day. As always, I appreciate you watching. Remember, if I can do it, you can do it. We'll see you next time.